I'd like to call the public hearing to order. Kelly, if you would like to read the public hearing.
Yep. Notice is hereby given by the Chair of the St. Lawrence County Board of Legislators that the Chair and the members of the Board of the County of St. Lawrence will meet at the Board of Legislators Chambers Courthouse located at 48 Court Street, Canton, New York at 5:50 on Monday, June 7th, 2021 for the purpose of conducting a public hearing regarding adopting proposed local law B for the year 2021, allowing 12 and 13-year-old licensed hunters to hunt deer with a firearm or crossbow during hunting season with the supervision of an adult licensed hunter. Be it enacted by the Board of Legislators of the County of St. Lawrence as follows. Section 1, pursuant to Environmental Conservation Law, ECL 11-0935, St. Lawrence County elects to participate in the temporary program to allow for young hunters ages 12 and 13 to hunt deer with firearm, to include rifles, shotguns, and muzzleloading firearms or crossbows through 2023. Section 2, 12 and 13-year-old licensed hunters shall be allowed to hunt deer under the supervision of a licensed adult hunter, age 21 years or older, with a rifle, shotgun, or muzzleloading firearm in areas where and during the hunting season in which such firearms may be used. Section 3, 12 and 13-year-old licensed hunters shall be allowed to hunt deer under the supervision of a licensed adult hunter aged 21 years or older with a crossbow during the times when other hunters may use crossbows. Section 4, supervision of a licensed adult hunter aged 21 years or older with at least 3 years of experience who exercises dominant and control over the youth hunter at all times is required. Section 5, all licensed 12 and 13-year-old hunters, as well as their adult supervisors, shall be required to wear fluorescent orange or pink clothing while engaged in hunting to the extent and covering so designated pursuant to the law, rules, and regulations promulgated by the state of New York. Section 6, all licensed 12 and 13-year-old hunters shall remain at ground level while hunting deer with crossbow, rifle, shotgun, or muzzleloaders. Section 7, notwithstanding any state or federal law to the contrary, this local law shall not authorize the hunting of bear by 12 and 13-year-old with a firearm or crossbow. Section 8, a copy of this local law shall be sent to the New York State Department of Conservation. Section 9, this local law shall take effect immediately upon the filing of the Secretary of State.
Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? No one from the public? Public hearing is now open. Thank you. I'd like to call to order the June 7th full board meeting. Can I have a motion for suspension of the rules, for the rules that suspend the rules to allow the attendance of this meeting telephonically as per Executive Order 2002.1, Article 7. Mr. Lightfoot, Mr. Fay seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Roll call vote, please, John.
Reagan,
Here. Not a vote, just a roll call.
Yep. Forsythe,
Here.
Lightfoot,
Here.
Sheridan,
Here.
Smithers,
Here.
Denisha,
Here.
Perkins, Akers,
Here.
Fay,
Here.
Haggard,
Here.
Piacco,
Here.
Burke,
Here.
Arquette.
Here.
Terminelli.
Here.
Curran.
Here.
14 present.
Okay, thank you. We have a prayer by Legislator Denisha and followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Before I start, I'm just going to ask everyone's indulgence. Memorial Day was a week ago, so I'm going to include a couple references to that. Bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we pray for those who courageously laid down their lives for the cause of freedom. May the example of their sacrifice inspire us in the selfless love of your Son, Jesus Christ. Bless the families of the fallen, fill their homes with your strength and peace. Together with people of goodwill from every nation, embolden us to answer the call to work for peace and justice, and thus seek an end to violence and conflict around the globe. We pray that God will give our government leaders and all citizens his wisdom and knowledge. In the words of Daniel, chapter 2, verses 20 through 21. Praise be to the name of God. Wisdom and power are his. He changes times and seasons. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. When our evening's work has been completed, please guide us on our journeys home and grant us all a safe return. For all these things, we ask your blessing through Jesus Christ, your Son, in whose name all things are possible. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have a motion for approval of the agenda. Motion by Ms. Kern, Mr. Smithers, and Mr. Denisha seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of the minutes, May 3rd and May 24th special board meeting, moved by Ms. Kern, second by Mr. Smithers. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now we have a COVID update by Dr. Williams. Angeline Unger. And who would like to go first tonight?
No, I'll go first.
Okay, Julie, go ahead, Julie.
So, As of today, we have 7,500 cases to date. There are 4 current hospitalizations, so this is a little bit higher. We have 18 active cases and 7,385 people have completed isolation, and we do have 97 cumulative deaths. So as you can see with our hospitalizations, they have been steady. So we've been averaging between 3 to 4 for the last month. This is something though just to pay attention, because as you can see, our weekly cases are going down. We have only had 11 cases so far this week. So that just means that out of the ones that have been getting sick, some of them are ending up back in the hospital. So even though we're seeing fewer cases, they are a little bit sicker. So our average new daily cases per week is dropping off. This week we are at 1.83 with 1 day remaining. Last week we were at 3.7, which is a dramatic drop from the 12.7 that we had a couple of weeks ago. And our school cases have also dropped off. There was an extended school break, so people weren't getting tested because even if they had symptoms, they weren't required to get tested because they weren't in school. So far in June, we've had 2 K-12 cases. And then our college cases are hovering just around 1 to 2. There are some students that are still in college, so that's why we haven't seen them completely go away with summer sessions. And then so for our isolation and quarantine plan, we have 18 active people on isolation and 66 people in quarantine. And a total of 35,043 people have been through the isolation and quarantine process. So just an update on school mask guidance. I know on Friday that there was a letter that went out to the media from the CDC about some guidance. I just want to clear that up a little bit. So today, Governor Cuomo announced that school districts can choose to lift the requirement that their students must wear masks outdoors. Guidance for mask use indoors does remain in place. We are still awaiting guidance from the New York State Department of Health on how to implement this and what it means for the schools. So we are in a holding pattern right now. And then today, the governor also talked about lifting COVID-19 restrictions. So once the state as a whole reaches 90%, then most of the remaining restrictions will go away. So capacity restrictions, social distancing, the enhanced cleaning and disinfecting protocols, required COVID-19 screenings, and then supplying contact information for potential tracing. That is just for any type of businesses or events. That does not mean if you are actually positive that you still have to provide the information. And then places and organizations such as the schools, public transit, homeless shelters, correctional facilities, and healthcare facilities will continue requiring everyone to wear masks regardless of vaccination status. And then with all of the restrictions lifting, unvaccinated individuals will still be responsible for maintaining their proper social distancing of 6 feet and wearing a mask as per the federal CDC guidance. So masks will still be required for anyone that is not vaccinated. So for our distribution update for the county health department, we have so far administered 5,776 first doses, and that does include Johnson & Johnson. And we've done 4,159 second doses. So this week we are at Clifton Fine tomorrow doing Moderna second doses. And then Thursday we are at the Pirates and Rensselaer Falls Fire Department doing Moderna second doses. And we are also hosting a J&J clinic, and you can make an appointment or you can just walk in. We are also doing the schools. And then on Saturday, we are doing our second doses of Pfizer at our SLU clinic. So some adolescent vaccine statistics. Most of the data that is out there is just the 15 and older, because that's how the census data is. So working with the school superintendents and pulling at reports out of the immunization system, we were able to determine about 31.8% of our children 12 to 14 have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine so far. 51% of the 15 to 18-year-olds have. So our total population between 12 to 18 is about 42%, and that's our school age population. So we have held a first dose clinic for all 17 of our school districts. We were able to work with them and 5 of the school districts were willing to travel. So we are at 12 school districts to get all 17 done. And their second doses will all be done before the last day of school this year. And to give an update on the state site. So starting today through Friday, anybody that gets their dose their dose of Johnson & Johnson at the state site is eligible to receive a mega multiplier lottery ticket, a $20 value. So the state has now included our site in their lottery vaccine. And we do still get several calls on where can somebody get a vaccine or to find out where they can get a specific vaccine. So I wanted to share the website again, vaccines.gov. And pharmacies, the state site, public health, and then some community providers and hospitals do have the vaccine as well. And just a reminder for who still has to quarantine, anybody that is not fully vaccinated or has not recovered from COVID-19 in the previous 3 months, and anyone regardless of vaccination status with symptoms following an exposure. And we were informed today by the state that most likely isolation and quarantine will probably continue at least until November. So this is just another reminder, if you are one of those individuals that has had to quarantine or isolate multiple times, they'll, the way to continue or to not have to do that again is to get vaccinated. And I will turn it over to Dr. Williams.
Go ahead, Doctor. Thank you, Jolie.
Thank you. So, good evening, everyone. I wanted to just do a quick national trends because I think it's important and it sort of informs what happens locally. So if you look at the new cases per day, there has been a steady decrease, which is wonderful. Overall, however, we're reaching nearly 600,000 deaths across the nation. If you look at cases, though, there's been a 45% decrease in the last 14 days, and that's the trend that we've been seeing now for several months, which is very encouraging. As far as hospitalizations, we're also seeing a decrease by 20% in the past 14 days, and for deaths, a decrease by 28% in the past 14 days. And again, those are all trends that have been sustained. One thing that's interesting is, as of yesterday, at least, there was only one U.S. state that had an increase in daily cases. That was Alabama. And I also noticed, looking at the data, that they have the second lowest rate of vaccination compared to other states in our country. As far as trends nationally, there have been more than 300 million vaccines administered. And what we see is that for the total population, at least 51% have received one dose, so that's nationally, and about 61% of people over the age of 12 have received at least one dose. As you can imagine, there's some variability. So Vermont, our neighbor, is leading at 71%. Mississippi is at 34%, and this is for people with at least one dose per state. And New York State, we're kind of in the upper middle of the distribution, and we're at 56% if you look at the overall population in New York State. If you look at what's happening in the county, we're almost at 100,000 total doses administered. And again, that's total doses administered. Most of these people are receiving 2 shots. Of the total population, we have about 51% who've received at least one dose. When you look at the 18 and older group, and that's when there's this national goal of 70%, they're looking at 18 and older, which is a little confusing because people 12 and older are eligible, but that's the benchmark. So we're at 61% for the 18 and older population in the county. This is a breakdown of the age demographics, and again, I think this is a very important chart to look at. Jolene talked about the younger population, which has an increasing vaccination rate. I think from a hospitalization perspective, this older group remains most important, and I did round up here, but it's 90%. It's like 89.7%. So it's 90% for our citizens in the county who are 70 to 79. For 60 to 69, it's 80%, which is excellent. And for 80 plus, it's 78%. Those are people receiving at least one vaccine. The majority of those people have also received their second vaccine if it was Pfizer or Moderna. So we're really doing quite well as a county, especially with that demographic. If you look at the trends of who's vaccinating, based on the provider for each week, and at least according to this tally, we're at week 25 was last week. What you see is that there's sort of a gradual decrease. Back at week 15, we were at like 7,000 vaccines in that week. We're now at a much lower number. The other thing I'll draw your attention to, in each of the different colors on these bars reflects who is providing the vaccination. And the very large proportion of vaccinations had been the pink portion of the bar, which was the state site. And what you can see is that the state site is now only administering J&J, and they've actually transitioned to they're out of Maxey Hall, I believe, as of today, and they have a FEMA trailer over outside of Maxey Hall. But again, what we do see is that there's been a change in where the vaccines are being administered. And this is illustrated a little bit further here. This is the most recent week that we have data for. So the pharmacies actually are doing the majority of vaccination right now. Local health departments, so Jolene and her team are doing an excellent job. And that's what we did for vaccination last week. And then the community health center and hospital clinics, so these are provider offices, are just kind of getting rolling in terms of being able to provide vaccination. So at least last week there were like 25 vaccines given in that context. I thought this was an interesting chart. So this looks at the North Country region. So it's our 7 counties, Clinton through St. Lawrence. This pink line is the 70% national goal by July 4th. And what you see is these green bars basically represent, it's a combination of data from 2 different sources. So there's a little bit of wiggle, but it shows how close we are to getting to 70%. And what you see is that for St. Lawrence County, we're at the bottom of the graph. This is our deficit. So we have a 9% deficit. We're at 61%. We want to get to 70%. And if you put that in terms of numbers of individuals, that's about 7,500 people in the county need to get vaccinated for us to reach that 70% mark. And 70% is basically an estimate of what is needed for herd immunity. If we get to 69 or 71%, there's probably not a huge difference, but 70% is that national goal. And if you look at some of the things that people are doing to try and get to that goal, it's kind of a combination of mandates and incentives. So as far as mandates, people are familiar that the SUNY, so for us, SUNY Canton and SUNY Potsdam, are mandating COVID vaccination. Keep in mind, this is contingent on full FDA approval. And Clarkson and St. Lawrence University likewise are mandating vaccination. Again, this is for some of the institutions, it's just for the students. There's some discussion about faculty and staff at both institutions. These are contingent on full FDA approval, which we anticipate will happen sometime this summer. And there are opportunities for exemptions that are specific to each of those institutions. People may have been following that the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has been kind of making statements about what employers can and cannot do. One of the headlines from last week was that they said that employers can mandate COVID-19 vaccinations. That's the headline. Like with many headlines, there are caveats to this. So there are some employers that are talking about doing this. The EEOC has basically given permission on some level, but there are absolutely caveats, and people should kind of read the fine lines about that. As far as incentives, also in the news, the governor announced that there are full ride scholarships to both the SUNY system and the CUNY system in New York State. I believe they're giving out 10 scholarships per week for a 5-week period, so at least 50 of these full ride scholarships. And again, just kind of looking at that population and trying to incentivize. The Vax and Scratch program, which Joni mentioned, also looks to provide free lottery tickets to individuals 18 and older for this potential to win this large prize. So just to summarize, there's really been a significant sustained decrease in COVID cases, in hospitalizations and deaths, both nationally and in our county, which is excellent news. Vaccinations continue to be proven to be safe and effective. Vaccines have basically transformed COVID, which again has killed almost 600,000 Americans, into a preventable disease. So every time we hospitalize somebody who hasn't taken the opportunity to get vaccinated, it's unfortunate because it's a preventable disease at this point. On a national, state, and county level, there are efforts to increase vaccination through incentive programs as well as mandates. And again, I really think that the key to moving forward and not looking back is vaccination. And that's what I have to share tonight. Thank you.
Are there any questions of Jolene or Dr. Williams? Mr. Akers?
So Dr. Williams or Jolene, I don't know, I asked this, I think a month ago, I was wondering how many actual hospitalizations took place in St. Lawrence County? Does anyone know how many people were actually hospitalized out of our 7,600 individuals that got COVID? Does anyone know?
So we should have that data for the next meeting. I have an individual staff member now that our case counts are a little bit lower, able to work on going through everything to pull that. So I'll have that for the next meeting.
So the second question is, we've been in COVID for almost 16 months now. Is there any standardized treatment for pre-hospitalization of COVID patients? Are we doing any aggressive pre-treatment for individuals? Is there any medical protocol that's taking place on either a state or national level?
So on a local level, there is an opportunity for people who are at high risk to receive antibody therapy, which has shown some promise. And that's really the primary thing that somebody who's not hospitalized would be offered. And that would largely be for somebody who is considered to be at high risk for ending up being hospitalized. So like somebody who presented to an emergency department, for instance, but didn't need to be admitted, but in an effort to keep them out of the hospital.
It just seems unusual that no standard pre-hospitalization treatment has been offered as a protocol across the nation.
Well, I think that speaks to the fact that if there were some, there's been lots of discussion and lots of clinical trials to identify effective therapies for outpatients, and the data has largely not supported their effectiveness. So they're not being offered because they're not thought to be effective. Certainly, if we identify an effective, preferably oral therapy, everybody would be offering it. I will also just underline the fact that vaccination really continues to be demonstrated to be both safe, but especially effective at preventing hospitalization, emergency room visits, and disability from COVID. So I think at this point, rather than wait for additional clinical trials to come out for treatment, I would just emphasize that prevention is the right approach at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Williams. Ms. Unger, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is presentation of resolutions. Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. It is my great honor to present this resolution. There is not a more honest, hardworking, honorable profession that can be practiced, requiring involving a balance of work and flexibility with Mother Nature, care and love of land and love of animals, and reward daily accomplishments of that of a dairy farmer. And it is my honor to proclaim June as Dairy Month.
Is there a second? Mr. Fay, Mr. Reagan, and Mr. Smithers, and Mr. Denisha, and Ms. Kern, and Mr. Arkwood. I think that's it. And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Introduction of dairy promoters, 2021 Dairy Princess in Court. How are we doing? Go ahead, go with the introduction.
My name is Cameron Bullock. I'm 7.5 years old. I'm the granddaughter of William and Sheila Bullock that own Willow Shade Farm. This is my first year as a dairy promoter. I hope you have a good day.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Hi, my name is Addison McKnight. I'm from Chase Mills, New York. I go to Madrid Waddington Elementary School. I'm in the 5th grade. I'm the daughter of Travis and Madeline McKnight, the granddaughter of Stephen and Mary Lou McKnight. I live on our family farm, River Breeze Dairy, and we milk 1,550 cows.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Myra Bullock. I'm 12 years old in 6th grade, attending Edwards Knox Central School. I'm the granddaughter of William and Sheila Bullock, who own and operate Willow Shade Farms. This would be my first year as a St. Lawrence County Dairy Ambassador, and I have previously been a St. Lawrence County Dairy Promoter for the past 3 years. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a great night.
Good evening, my name is Caitlin Putman. I live on an 80-cow dairy farm in Lisbon, New York. My parents are Clark and Nancy Putman. Our farm is called Putman Farms, and I'm in 8th grade at Madrid Waddington Central School.
Hi, I'm Madeline Langley. I'm the daughter of Heather and my parents. I graduated from Canton High School in 2018. This is my first year as a St. Lawrence Dairy Ambassador.
Hello, my name is Michael Pierce. I am 15 years old and I am from Hubleton. This is my 3rd year on the dairy court. Where I am from, which is also home to ranch veterinarians, we celebrate June is Dairy Month with free ice cream sandwiches for farmers as a way of giving back. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Cameron Chester, the daughter of Alan and Amy Chester. They co-own C&M Dairy with my aunt and uncle. I'm kind of a veteran to the program. You saw me back in 2016, 2017 as the princess, and I decided to come out of retirement for 1 more year. So I hope you enjoy your night.
Good evening, my name is Elena Wainwright. I'm 18 years old, a soon-to-be graduate from Canton Central High School, and I'm sponsored by Wilson's Farms on Black Lake. Saturday night, I had the honor of being crowned the new 2021-22 St. Lawrence County Dairy Princess. I've learned a lot in my last 2 years in this program, and I look forward to learning so much more in this new role. I have a very strong passion for our dairy industry. Our farmers work hard every day to make sure that the public has access to high-quality dairy and the essential nutrients that it contains. Farmers truly are our heroes. This last year was a huge struggle for our program, and we found ourselves wondering how to keep promoting during this virtual year. But while so many things were canceled and stopped, the dairy industry never stopped. Our farmers kept working and producing high-quality milk to keep supplying the public with. But it was also a year of knowledge through all of that struggle. We worked hard to overcome this challenge and learned new and creative ways to keep promoting and reaching out to people. And I think I speak for the whole court when I say that as things are opening up, we are all very enthusiastic and ready to start promoting in person again for our amazing farmers and dairy industry. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you for having us this evening.
Well, thank you. Very well done. Guys speak well at that microphone.
We also have refreshments outside, so we have cheese and water for everybody outside when you guys go on recess.
That sounds good. Does anyone want to make a move? Do we go into recess? They all want to go into recess. Anything seconded by Ms. Kern, was a motion by Mr. Smithers. We're going to go into recess and have some refreshments for you fine folks.
All right, we'll meet you out there.
Okay.
Yeah, Millie, I think so. Should I get one of the group or no, because there's a here.
They, oh, this group, maybe just get them around.
That, I could do that certificate.
2 years.
Probably a few years, but I have to figure out the number. As long as the numbers. You mean, you want it just the resolution, right?
Normally the resolution on the certificate.
Oh, no,
So we could do that in the morning
okay,
and we could sign it. And train it, I could take it over to him
okay.
and then he could take it to the meeting.
Is the meeting tomorrow night?
Of course,
Okay.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll let him know that.
Okay. I'm gonna bring my key, because I got locked out for about half an hour today.
You did?
Yes, I didn't know
Maybe
the
it was a
doors locked at
message.
5:00.
Oh.
I'm walking around, I'm like, I'm not gonna get back in. I'm pounding on the door.
Nobody?
I go around the back, I'm like, maybe Ruth will come shortly.
Nope.
And then I see Dylan's got his air conditioner, I'm like, Dylan.
Nothing.
Finally he comes to the window, and I'm like, can't be in. Lock myself out.
We can hear you, girls.
I just realized that.
Call the meeting back to order. We have communications, Kelly?
There are no communications
No
tonight.
communications, okay. Citizen participation. Any citizen participation? Doesn't look like there is. Okay, let's move on to presentation of resolutions. Ms. Kern?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a resolution authorizing the purchase of a drone for aerial law enforcement deployment and modifying the 2021 budget for the sheriff's office.
Second by Mr. Smithers. Any discussion? No discussion? A roll call vote?
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes.
Akers,
Yes.
Fay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
Piaco,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Arquette,
Yes.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
I need to ask, what are we voting on?
So the first resolution.
The drone.
Your sentence.
Yeah.
Here's the sentence.
Sheridan,
Yes.
14 yes, 1 absent.
Carried. Ms. Kern?
Mr. Chairman, I have a resolution authorizing the sheriff to acquire training services from a master instructor for the St. Lawrence County Instructor Development Course and modifying the 2021 budget for the Sheriff's Office Criminal Division.
Second by Mr. Denisha. Any discussion? Being no discussion, roll call vote, Kelly?
Denisha,
Yes.
Akers,
Yes.
Fay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
Piaco,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Arquette,
Yes.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
14 yes, 1 absent.
Motion carried. Ms. Kern?
I have a resolution adding 13 parcels totaling 1,010.3 acres to the agricultural district 2. I move this resolution.
Second by Mr. Denisha. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Lightfoot?
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Jack Nesky CPA and Associates for preparation of the preschool school supportive health services annual Medicaid cost report for the Public Health Department for the July 1, 2021 and June 30, 2022 program year, and move for its adoption.
Seconded by Ms. Kern and Mr. Smithers. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Lightfoot?
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a service agreement between the Public Health Department and Stericycle for disposal of medical waste and move for its adoption.
Seconded by Ms. Kern. And any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Lightfoot?
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign the Emergency Preparedness Program contract for the Public Health Department and move for its adoption.
Seconded by Ms. Kern and Mr. Smithers. And any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Coordinated Care Services Incorporated for preparation of the 2020 Consolidated Fiscal Report and modifying the 2021 budget for community services and move for its adoption.
Seconded by Ms. Kern. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Kelly?
Akers,
Yes.
Fay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
Piaco,
Yes.
Burt,
Yes.
Arquette,
Yes.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes.
14 yes, 1 absent.
Carried. Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a new membership agreement with Northwinds Integrated Health Network IPA Incorporated and move for its adoption.
Second by Ms. Kern. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a lease agreement with Lot 21 for space for the Department of Social Services in the city of Augsburg, New York, located at 206 4th Street, and modifying the 2021 budget for the Department of Social Services and move for its adoption.
Seconded by Mr. Reagan. Mr. Smithers?
Yes, in regard to this resolution, I am made aware of some concerns that I think need to be checked out and see how serious these concerns are. And I'm not ready to vote on this tonight, so I'm gonna offer a motion to table this.
Motion's been tabled and seconded by Mr. Lightfoot and Ms. Kern. All in favor of tabling the resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolution carried. There are resolutions tabled. Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract between the Department of Social Services and the Mental Health Clinic of Community Services to provide the services of a qualified individual under the Family First Prevention Services Act and move for its adoption.
Second by Ms. Kern and Mr. Smithers. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the release of funds set aside for the 2021 Bassmaster Elite Series in Waddington, New York, and move for its adoption.
Second by Mr. Denisha and Mr. Smithers. And any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution commemorating the bicentennial of the town of Morristown and move for its adoption.
Seconded by Ms. Kern and Mr. Smithers. Any discussion? Mr. Lightfoot.
Mr. Chairman, just to briefly address this significant event for one of our townships. It was last month that I attended the Morristown Town Board meeting. And on that very night, it was the 200th anniversary of the founding of the town of Morristown. Over the years, Morristown has made significant contributions to the public of not only the town of Morristown, but the county of St. Lawrence in some of the things that they have accomplished in that township since its inception 200 years ago. It is a village, a very tight-knit village and a very tight-knit town. People are very proud to have you know that they belong and live in the town of Morristown. Morristown happens to be directly across from Brockville, Ontario, and for many years in the past, there was ferry service between Morristown and Brockville. That ended quite a few years ago. I was much younger at the time, but I do remember it. One of the other things that Morristown is noted for is their muskie fishing. They have pulled many a record holder out of the St. Lawrence River. And in addition to muskie, one of the big draws to that area in years past was sturgeon fishing. I would assume that most people know that sturgeon are sort of a prehistoric looking fish. They grow to some tremendous sizes. And there was literally an industry dedicated to sturgeon fishing during that time. I say an industry, individuals collectively would fish for that species with a lot of success. One of the other big things was Dr. Morse's Indian root bills, and I think I've mentioned that before. This was one of those remedies that would cure anything and everything. And they had a factory and a production facility in Morristown, New York. And on the front of it, they had a sign, a huge sign that went the length of the building, Dr. Morse's Indian root bills. I still have one of the little metal tins that these root bills came in. And I'm quite happy and quite proud to have it. Morristown is a great place. It is inhabited by great people, believe me. I've represented them now this is my 13th year on the board. And I got to tell you that there are not too many meetings in Morristown that I've missed. It's a pleasure to go to those meetings. The board members down there are a great group of individuals. They really, really care about what's going on in their town. And the last thing I'd like to comment on is after many, many years, we're finally going to get the Morristown Bay opened up by removing one of the county's bridges in there and widening out that opening to allow for movement of water in there that will hopefully make it an attractive place to boat, fish, or just sit on the shore and enjoy the scenery. So I'm very proud to bring this bicentennial commemoration. I will be bringing if this resolution is passed, I will be bringing a framed copy of it to the Morristown Town Board meeting tomorrow evening. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lightfoot. Any other discussion? Well, I can contribute a little bit to that, Mr. Lightfoot. I've got a couple favorite watering holes in Watertown, or in Morristown.
So I heard, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, but one's been torn down, it's the Harbor Inn, and boy, that has got a lot of places to tell. Stories to be told about the Harbor Inn, it's owned by a Hammond family, the Sarasota family. It was quite a place to be for restaurant world and entertainment here. So.
Well, one of the things that perhaps you missed that had some notoriety back in the day was the Red Dog Inn.
Yeah, that was before my time.
No, it's not before your time, but when I was in the state police, that was quite the place. It drew a lot of attention. And it was right where Mr. Phillips's establishment is now. And Morristown was known to get a little wild when the Red Dog was open.
It sure does. Well, thank you. Any more discussion? No more discussion. How about all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you all.
Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution modifying the 2021 budget for solid waste for revenue received from the Development Authority of the North Country, known as GANG, for recycling equipment, and move this resolution.
Second by Ms. Kern. Any discussion? No discussion? Roll call vote.
Fay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
Piacco,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Arquette,
Yes.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes.
Akers,
Yes.
14 yes, 1 absent.
Carried. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution modifying the 2021 budget for the Department of Highways capital fund for the purchase of a trail grader, the St. Lawrence County multi-use trail project. I move this resolution.
Second by Ms. Kern. And Mr. Tony Arquette. And discussion. Mr. Arquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to this resolution. And I also like to ask Superintendent Don Chambers to speak to it. Thank you.
So noted. Go ahead, Mr. Chambers. Yes, welcome. Welcome. We have 5 minutes.
I'll be less. Yes, this resolution will authorize the purchase of a trail grader. This piece of equipment is specifically designed for trail maintenance. It can be towed behind a 4x4 pickup truck or a small farm tractor, so, around 30 to 40 horse. So you basically can set the grade, it can crown the trail, so it'll conserve the gravel that we put into the trail, bring it back in to be reused rather than being put off to the side of the trail. So it's one of the items that New York State DEC has requested that we have a way to regrade the trail, especially through our center section that was just opened this year. So.
Any questions, Don? Mr. Reagan?
John, how long is the trail? I'm sorry, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but there's that section itself goes from Tooley Pond that I was just referring to, from Tooley Pond up to Holbrook. So I would say that's 20 plus miles at that point. Then we have the trails around Parrishville that also need grading, and down in Brazier, several trails down there that, so there's likely to be 50 miles or so that would need grading.
Mr. Can I answer a question? How many miles the trail is about?
Yes, you can. Go ahead and ask.
Mr. Arquette?
Thank you, Jimmy. That's a moving target, Jim, because we have the main trail corridor, and then we have what they're referred to as community connectors. And with the trail increasing in mileage, when I say trail meaning the multi-use, then we have continued community connectors, which really is our hope as we continue on. But we're just shy of spanning the county from Lewis County to Franklin County. And I don't have the exact mileage on that, but you can picture it coming across, and then there's spurs into all of the small townships across the county to provide revenue for those businesses and provide services to our riders. I will get that exact number for the entire board.
I just asked the question because I think it's important for the public to realize that this county has worked very, very hard. Our Trails Committee has worked very hard. Our Highway Department has done yeoman service in creating what will soon become one of the Northeast major tourist destinations for trail users of all kinds. A lot of different people, a lot of different agencies have gotten together over a multi-year period to develop a trail system that people will be coming to from Canada, from the Northeast, and eventually across the country. Very few counties in the state will have what we have created, and in addition to creating great recreational opportunities for our own residents who have an opportunity to go out and enjoy this trail system, it'll be bringing in new business, it'll be bringing in new customers into a lot of our rural communities that really need this kind of shot in the arm. And I just want to thank all those who worked so hard to make this reality for the people of St. Lawrence County. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reagan. Mr. Forsythe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don, a couple questions. Who owns this piece of machinery?
This will be owned by St. Lawrence County.
Okay, and where will it be kept?
I imagine in the wintertime, we store it at highway storage yard.
Okay, and maintenance and everything, the responsibility of St. Lawrence County?
Yes, there will be maintenance that will be required on this. The cutting edges will need to be replaced and such. So
Sure.
typically would probably through the highway shop, filling the multi-use trail accounts.
Okay, and the last question, and I don't know if you know the answer yet, but how many permits have been sold so far?
In excess of 400.
400 of the $65 ones? What was that? I'm sorry?
It's a mixture of, because some get a discount for joining the club, but yes, predominantly the $65 passes.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Don? No more further questions? Oh, yes, Tony Arco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not necessarily a question for Don, but just an example of the increased usership out there on the trail system. I attended a fundraiser at one of the major hunting clubs just above Parishville over last weekend. They've been putting on a fish feed for years there and certainly do a tremendous job. Their fundraiser starts at 11 and finishes at 4. This year, with the implementation of the local law and the increased usership of the trail system, they were out of everything before 1 p.m. There was motorized recreation plentiful there, and it's just an example of the increased use of the trail system and the need for a piece of equipment like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arco. Any further questions, comments? Okay, we have a roll call vote. Kelly?
Haggard,
Yes.
Piacco,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Arquette,
Yes.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Forsythe,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes.
Akers,
Yes.
Fay,
Yes.
14 yes, one absent.
Carries. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution that is authorizing a bond resolution for the acquisition and construction of 2 equipment garages and 2 sand/salt storage buildings at a maximum estimated cost of $6 million and authorizing the issuance of up to 6 million bonds of St. Lawrence County to pay the cost thereof. I move this resolution.
Moved and seconded by Mr. Lightfoot and Ms. Kern. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to commend our highway superintendent, Mr. Chambers, on the foresight and the planning of these buildings. For the first time ever, that we'll be able to put these $200,000 trucks undercover. They have sensitive electronics. This will extend their lifetimes and allow some preventative maintenance to take place. And also that they're strategically and geographically placed in the county, one in Russell and one in the town of Liston at our transfer station. And I think the biggest benefit that the village of Canton will see will be the less noise, the noise pollution, the backup alarms that are waking up our county attorney through all hours of the night. And I think that will be a great thing for the village of Canton. So once again, thank you, Mr. Chambers.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing real property tax law correction of errors. I move this resolution.
Second by Ms. Kern. And any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Mr. Akers.
Chairman, I offer a resolution adopting the mortgage tax report. I move this resolution.
Second by Ms. Kern. Discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation and St. Lawrence County Soil and Water Conservation District for the septic system replacement program and modifying the 2021 budget for the planning office. I move this resolution.
Seconded by Mr. Lightfoot and Ms. Kern. Any discussion? Mr.
I'd just like to thank the Soil and Water for providing us once again for $20,000 to help cover the administrative cost of issuing, taking care of this grant. It's the second year that they've done it, and we want to thank them for that.
Any further discussion? Kelly, can we have a roll call vote?
Piaco,
Yes.
Burke,
Yes.
Arquette,
Yes.
Terminelli,
Yes.
Curran,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Foresight,
Yes.
Lightfoot,
Yes.
Sheridan,
Yes.
Smithers,
Yes.
Denisha,
Yes.
Akers,
Yes.
Fay,
Yes.
Haggard,
Yes.
14 yes, one absent.
Carried. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with the North Country Housing Council to administer the 2021 septic system replacement program. I move this resolution.
Seconded by Ms. Kern. Any discussion? No discussion? Yes, Mr. Denisha.
Yeah, I wasn't going to, but I voted no on this in committee. Not because I'm against the septic system replacement program, but I object to the North Country Housing Council as being the administrator of the grant. I think there are other options out there. I think there are other companies that can provide the same service and do a better job. So
That being said, I will vote no on this particular resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? No more discussion, all in favor? Opposed? We have one person opposed, Mr. Denisha, anyone else? Okay. Carried. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I authorize a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a contract with Odin Environmental LLC for environmental investigation on property owned by the estate of Betty Davis, properties owned by Melvin Bice, property owned by Grant's Gas and Grocery LLC. I move this resolution.
Seconded by Ms. Kern. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign a lease agreement with Lot 21 for space in the city of Ogdensburg, New York, located at 206 Ford Street. I move this resolution.
Seconded by Ms. Kern. Mr. Smithers.
This appears very similar, if not identical, to the resolution on page 11. So I'm going to, because of the concerns expressed previously, I'm going to move to table this one also.
Motion's been made. Mr. Lightfoot seconds it. Ms. Kern seconds it. All in favor of? Any discussion?
No, no discussion.
No discussion on it. Okay, all in favor?
Of tabling?
Aye.
Yes, aye.
Opposed? Carried for tabling. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution appointing the St. Lawrence County Historian. I move this resolution.
Seconded by Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Smithers and Ms. Kern and Mr. Denisha, Mr. Dan Fay, Mr. Jim Reagan. And that's all, I guess, for people seconding it. How about some discussion? Any discussion? Mr. Akers?
I believe that Ms. LaFavor is here and there is a multiple choice test we have to complete.
Well, there's one question.
So, would you like to introduce yourself if that's?
Go ahead, if you'd like to.
Coming up front.
Most of the students at Hubleton will tell you that I don't need the microphone. And unlike the dairy princess and their court, I'm not going to tell you how old I am, nor what year I graduated. I am Nancy LaFavor. I live in Lisbon. I grew up in Waddington. I bet if you ask your sister Kathy, she would tell you what year I graduated, because I graduated with Kathy. Stop it! That may be a fib, but it isn't. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Because most people usually shush me, they don't invite me to talk.
So I don't think any of us here really know you. What was your maiden name?
Baker.
So what can you tell us about yourself and your interest in history?
Oh, goodness, you don't want to be here long enough. I have always liked history. From the time I was little, my grandmother ran the funeral home in Waddington, and in the garage was a hearse that was run by horses, and I was forever being found in there reading, so that should tell you where it began. But yeah, this county has so much history that people don't know about, that it needs to be shared. And that's what I'd like to do.
Mr. Reagan.
This one scares me.
No, I'm not asking you a question. I just want to thank you for being willing to do this. Nancy has been involved in a lot of projects and causes on behalf of the history of St. Lawrence County for many years. She's been very involved with the Fort Presentation Association. She's been involved with the County Historical Association. She's been involved with all of the Association of Town Historians. She brings a wealth of knowledge and a incredibly diverse background in the very complicated history of St. Lawrence County. And I don't think we could have found a more enthusiastic and dedicated worker who will try to help communities across St. Lawrence County to discover their histories, capitalize upon their histories, and use their histories to help drive tourists to their communities and bring history alive to our next generation. So speaking as one legislator, I just want to thank you for all that you've done for our communities over the years and offer you my support. And I hope I can speak for the board in support for your efforts. And I look forward to working with you and look forward to seeing all the great things that I know you're going to be doing on behalf of our community. So thank you.
Thank you. I do have several projects in the works. And by way of an anniversary, the county's anniversary is coming March 3rd. It'll be 220 years, so I'll probably be back.
We have one more question, at least I know of. Ms. Kern would like that.
Awesome.
So where was the last battle?
Where was the last battle of the French and Indian War?
I think she's asking you.
It was at Fort Levy on Isle Royale, just off the coast of Lisbon.
All right, we're gonna have a revote.
Am I wrong?
I don't think anybody in here could contradict you.
Jim could contradict me, I would be right.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time.
No.
Okay, I think, any other questions? All right, so there's no further discussion. All in favor of Nancy to be the next county historian, say aye.
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 Opposed? No opposition, so thank you, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for putting your trust in me. There are some historians that are going to be going home now. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution adopting the proposed local law for the year 2021 for allowing 12 and 13-year-old licensed hunters to hunt deer with a firearm or crossbow during hunting season with the supervision of an adult licensed hunter. I move this resolution.
And Mr. Denise seconds it, so is Mr. Smithers, so is Ms. Kern. And that looks about it. Oh, wait, Mr. Forsythe seconds it as well. Ms. Diaco seconds it. And any discussion on it? Mr. Tony Arquette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this resolution and have from its inception. I have had a couple of calls from concerned folks that are concerned. Some of our deer hunters, like to practice proper deer management that allows for bucks to grow bigger before we shoot them. And there's a concern by some that bringing, the youth into the picture might hinder that to a degree. Some had concerns about, the issuance of more tags, meaning that more deer would be shot seasonally. Some feel that more deer need to be shot seasonally. But I've met each one of those concerns with my feeling that is, I see so many 12 and 13-year-old boys and girls that are staring at their iPhones and their iPads, and it's not their fault. It's the way of life right now for kids that age, and I just think that this brings about an opportunity for kids to get out and enjoy the woods, enjoy the sport of deer hunting. And it's really worded, the resolution's worded in a very responsible manner to keep those young kids safe out there. So I fully support it. And I just wanted to share some of the concerns that I had heard over the course of time since it's been introduced. I will be supporting the resolution.
Thank you, John. Any other discussion?
Dave Forsythe.
Dave Forsythe, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that response right there. There's sections in this that concern me. Section 6 says the hunter shall remain on the ground. I'm not an advocate for that, and I don't really understand the logic behind it, but I will accept it. I guess there's got to be a little give and take, and I'm willing to give in order to get the 12 and 13-year-olds to be able to hunt and enjoy deer hunting with their family, friends, and whoever else. So, yeah, there's definitely parts of this that are going to be a little bit hard to understand, but I think the end game is it'll be good for all. So I support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Ms. Haggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am planning on voting in favor of this resolution. I did have a question, although, when it comes to section 4, maybe someone can answer this for me since I'm pretty unfamiliar with hunting in general. The young people have to be under the dominion and control of an adult with 3 years experience. Who checks up on that? Because to me, that's so important. It's great that they're out there, but I mean, they have to be right with somebody who's older and knows what they're doing. Is there some way that that's enforced? Anybody know?
Mr. Lightfoot, go ahead.
I can tell you that the DEC is in the field during the hunting season, in addition to the fishing season. The DEC officers are there to enforce it, and they do so, and I'm sure that they will be on the lookout enforcing this too. As well as that, the state police are also authorized to enforce the conservation law. And I'm sure that if anything is brought to their attention, that it will be thoroughly aired. So I would not be concerned about, or at least I am not concerned about the enforcement of this. I think that if there's a violation and it comes to the attention of the police, the DEC or the state or the county police, that it will be addressed.
Mr. Smithers.
In addition to what Legislator Lightfoot said, there's a lot of hunting clubs. And these clubs have rules, and they certainly don't want to, with liability the way it is, they don't want to take any chances on incurring any liability. So I think a lot of these clubs are going to self-police or self-enforce this, in addition to what you said.
I agree with you. Any other discussion on the matter? No more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the filling of vacancies. I move this resolution.
Seconded by Ms. Kern and Mr. Fay. Discussion? Is there any discussion? No discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Ms. Kern.
Mr. Chairman, I have a resolution authorizing the county administrator to request the plan of record data from Charter Communications, Inc., which is Spectrum, and sign the required non-disclosure agreement for the St. Lawrence County. I move this resolution.
Seconded by Mr. Akers. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes, go ahead.
So this resolution didn't go through committee. This is one of the next steps following the conclusion of the survey by ECC Technologies, which you will hear a full report on in July. This would allow for information to be shared. As the resolution describes, a non-disclosure agreement is required.
that counties are able to obtain in order to guide potential either investment or decision-making along with broadband in St. Lawrence County. So I ask that you support this.
Thank you, Ruth. Any questions of Ruth? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. Ganesha, would you like to offer this resolution?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I offer a resolution authorizing the chair to sign necessary documents to accept American Rescue Plan Act funding from the U.S. Department of Treasury and move for its adoption.
Second on Mr. Smith is Ms. Kern. Somebody over this way, Mr. Lightfoot. Is there any discussion? Mr. Lightfoot, go
Not
ahead.
so much discussion, I guess a question. Is it so that what this money can be spent on is still in the state of flux, and we still don't have a complete list of things that are permissible and things that are not?
And we have subject areas. I spent some time on Friday with county administrator manager types in Madison County talking about that. What this will provide is an opportunity for this county to accept half of those funds. They will be set aside in a deferred revenue so that once we determine exactly what those usage should be, resolutions can come back to the board for approval. So this would allow us to go ahead, which is already available, and accept half of the funds that are appropriated for St. Lawrence County, which would be the 20.9 million, and the board can make determination. We'll meet, Renee and I will meet with Luke Malecki this Wednesday to begin talking about that process.
And that process is, if I may,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Lightfoot.
is what are we gonna do with that money in the meantime? Where is it going to?
It will be set aside in a deferred revenue. It will not be spent.
Right, but investing it, it's
Yes.
Permissible to invest that money?
Yes, it is.
Are we still in concert with this group that I forget what the name of it was?
3+1?
There you go.
Yes.
Are we still using them? Are we still associated with them?
We are. And at this point in time, I think as everyone's aware, the returns will not nearly match what they did a few years ago, but that will allow at least the portion that we received to be invested, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Reagan first.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if this is the proper time to bring this up, but as part of this American Rescue Plan, I hope that one of the priorities that we will look at is set up a group within the county of the Office for the Aging, the Planning Office, and others to develop a plan to assist our landlords who are facing a existential crisis with a lot of their tenants have not been paying rent for over a year. And the governor issued an executive order that said that they could not be evicted. And the state has recently released funding available to help those landlords, help those tenants pay their back rent. But one of the problems that we're hearing about from landlords is that a lot of the tenants are not aware and in many cases don't understand and are fearful of applying for that assistance. And so a lot of landlords are still not getting paid. And I think this is a issue that is affecting property owners across the county who are in dire financial straits. Their life savings are wrapped up in these buildings. They're not able to get the money they need to make basic repairs. They're not able to get the money they need to pay their property taxes. they're not able to recoup the sizable investment that they've made. And it's, every single community in this county is being affected by this. So I really think that we as a county government need to lead the way in helping find a solution and work with these landlords and work with these tenants and help the landlords get paid. And the money is there. I'm not suggesting that the county pick up the tab. What I'm suggesting is that we've got some brilliant people on our staff who can help come up with ways to provide help these tenants fill out the paperwork and ensure that our landlords are able to recoup their investment before the problem gets worse. Because once the evictions begin to roll through the court system, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds of people thrown out of their homes, out of their apartments. And in many cases, they may struggle to find alternative housing opportunities, and then they're going to fall back on us. So I would strongly ask that we bring to bear our agencies and the folks we have, perhaps under the auspices of the planning office, to help address this crisis before it gets any worse.
Mr. Akers.
So this American Rescue Plan is misnamed. It should be American Rescue Plan compliments of our grandchildren and paid for by our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. We cannot use this money for a variety of purposes. And it's really not clear at this time what they are. One of the things is we can't lower taxes with it. So communities and municipalities or counties, we can't do that. It was, when this came out, $21 million is a lot. And I thought one of the greatest deficiencies in our county is our highway infrastructure. We close bridges every year, 4 or 5 it seems, that we make the decision that it's not viable for us to maintain. You, Mr. Sheridan, you have one in your communities that you represent. And I think that other states are in the same predicament. And I will probably be coming forth with a resolution to send this to the federal level to our senators, Schumer and Gillibrand, to allow leeway for counties to do what they can with the money to, help address some deficiencies in the counties. Now, part of this is that you cannot use the money unless you show a deficit. And here in St. Lawrence County, our sales tax was up $2 million. And so we don't have a deficit. It does go back to 2019. However, there's a lot of games that need to be played. But actually, if we can utilize these monies, we have a 40% deficiency in our roads and our bridges. If we can utilize this money, that's a great shot in the arm that everybody in this county would benefit from. And I think we need to lobby our federal representatives to get them to allow a little flexibility. I do know that states, and maybe Mr. Button could chime in if he's aware of it, states are actually suing on this matter because I think it's a constitutional issue where the Fed, as a federal government, is requiring and determining how states spend these monies within their own states. So I think it is challenging. I would like to put forth, as I said earlier, a resolution that we send this to our federal representatives, and I will do so in the future.
Well, I'd like to be a co-sponsor of that resolution. I agree with you. So, Ms. Kern.
I've been contacted by a number of landlords who are just concerned about this program because they said, many of my tenants have already been sent the money to pay the rent. They didn't go without the money that they were supposed to get to pay the rent. They just chose during this time not to pay their rent. He said, so now if they're allowed to apply again, does the money come to me or does it go to them again? Because it started June 1st that you could apply, but the rent moratorium has been extended, I believe, until the end of August now. So they're concerned about these monies going forward. And they said, we know that the county or the state is not going to absolve us of our land taxes. They're not gonna tell us that there's no penalties or fees if we're late because we've not been paid rent. So I agree with Kevin, something needs to go forward to our senators and people, simply because I can see it all. People, if the money is gonna go to the tenants again, I can see it still in the same problem 6 months from now, except for now, we're gonna be talking about foreclosing, especially in Ogdensburg. They foreclose after a year if people don't pay their land taxes. So they could have a heightened foreclosure in a place where getting apartments is already a premium issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. Go ahead, Ruth, I want you to chime in.
Sure. So with the guidance that we've received so far, the U.S. Department of the Treasury has called this an interim final rule, which means they are still accepting comments and reviewing the initial guidance that's been put out there. And they'll accept those comments until July 16th. And I indicated in my communication to all of you that I would very much like to submit comments, and these would seem to be very appropriate for that purpose. They could also be potentially captured, adopted by resolution, and then sent in as comments. When we attended NACO organized information setting, which often ends up with a bunch of I don't know, except for what they have out so far, they indicated they would very much like the counties, 3,000 or more across the country, to be submitting those comments. What impact they'll have, we don't know, but at least that speaks directly to the interim final rule and hopefully would assist in freeing up those funds to be used for the most appropriate use in each county across the state and country.
I think we're all in agreement that something's gotta be done, let our federal officials know, whatever it takes to get this thing opened up where we can use it for the right things. And, okay, so all in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Wait a minute, somebody had a question? Margaret, I'm sorry,
Yes.
I missed you. Go ahead.
That's okay. I did want to bring to the group's attention that through the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance, they're now accepting applications for people to get, and this could help landlords, up to 12 months of past due rent, 3 months of future rent, and 12 months of overdue utility bills. And that was announced by Representative Hakeem Jeffries today. So on the other side of it, there is aid coming to pay rent to the landlords who have suffered. And I know they have here in Potsdam too. Thank you.
Mr. Akers?
Does anyone know what the unemployment rate was in St. Lawrence County pre-COVID and what it is actually during COVID and what it is now?
You can find that out.
You find that out?
Sure.
I think that would be instrumental in finding out about how, whether or not tenants are just withholding money because they know that they can and because there certainly is a shortage of boats and side-by-sides and refrigerators and other things, so luxury items. So I'd be curious to actually to compare those 3 time periods, before, during, and after.
Mr. Burke?
The money, just a question and maybe a comment. I was under the impression that the money goes directly, this new grant goes directly to the landlords. It may have to be applied for by the tenants, but I was under the impression that it goes, the payment goes directly to the landlords. And if that's the case, I mean, I think Jim Reagan's point is a very good one. We need we need to facilitate, if we can, the application of those requests so that our landlords can get their money. But again, I asked the question, is that true that it goes directly to the landlords?
I believe that to be true.
Ruth Doyle says she believes that is the truth. Mr. Ray? Oh, go ahead, Mr. Burke, continue.
Well, I guess I know I was just going to reconfirm that if that's the case, then I wholeheartedly support what Jim is suggesting.
Yeah, I think, I just want to echo what John and Margaret said. There is funding available. The problem that some of the landlords are having is helping the tenants fill out the paperwork so that they don't have to be evicted. And I think it's important for the county to get involved with the folks who are in the courts who will be involved in the eviction process so that they're aware that there's a way to avoid the evictions so that we don't have hundreds of families out on the street when there's money available to pay their back rent, pay their utilities, and make the landlords whole. This is not the fault of the landlords. It is, one of the unintended consequences of the, what's gone on during the pandemic. So I really think we need, I would hope the board will support my urging to our county administrator to bring together our best people to try to come up with ideas and a plan so that we can get involved with this as quickly as possible and help these landlords because in a month or a couple months, the crisis is going to hit. And if we aren't proactive, what are we going to do when all these families are calling, looking for a place to stay and there is no place for them?
Mr. Chair?
Good
Listen
point.
to that as well.
Go ahead, Luke.
So you'll be pleased to know that DSS has already received funds. We are working with the Messina Independent Living Center. We are acquiring equipment, laptops, iPads, so that we can get people registered. As of today, it was reported we have 43 applications submitted that have all the details and everything submitted for proper review. So we are heading in that direction. We're acquiring the equipment. We want to get the word out. You may remember, I was going to mention this under county administrator, but I might as well now. At the beginning of this meeting, there were some slides rotating about the ERAP program, identifying, just as Legislator Haggard said, the items that can be assisted with, the month's utility bills, all of those things, and the address for OTDA to seek those. But certainly we appreciate the fact that that's not easy for everyone. So we want to get folks out into the community that can provide that assistance in real time.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the resolution? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Mr. Arquith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm authorizing the chair to, I'm presenting a resolution authorizing the chair to sign contracts with designated trail maintenance entities or TMEs associated with the New York State Snowmobile Trail Grant Program, and I move for its adoption.
Seconded by Mr. Lightfoot and Mr. Curran, Mr. Denisha. And any discussion? Mr. Tony Arthur.
Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is going to look very new to everybody in the room because I've been sitting here for a dozen years and this resolution has never come before us. We have 750 miles of snowmobile trails in St. Lawrence County, in which 553 of those miles are funded through the trail grant. So every year since I've been sitting here, we have 8 or 9 snowmobile clubs within the county, one of them being the St. Lawrence County Snowmobile Association, which is the county club. They've had the TME for a long period of time. They act as kind of an umbrella for the other clubs. And then they own the equipment that's utilized to groom the trails. And they attempt to bring fair and equitable treatment to all the clubs. Well, apparently a couple of the clubs have not seen it that way over the last few years. They're out of Cranberry Lake and the DeGrasse area, the Boondockers. They came to us in February timeframe, us being a few liaisons to the trail board, my legislative colleagues and I. A few of the clubs wanted to break away and have their own trail maintenance entity designation. To the degree that they went out and bought equipment to perform the task. So we attempted, the 3 of us, and then later on included other legislators came aboard to try to assist, and we acted as mitigators in this situation to no real avail. So our connection with this grant is that we act as a pass-through agency with our Department of Soil and Water Conservation. So we learned a lot between February and now about how the whole process works and who's responsible for what. We continued to try to get the clubs to resolve the issue internally and not bring us aboard. It became evident to all of us unanimously that couldn't be the case. Chairman Sheridan put together a legislative trails committee, including myself, Legislator Denisha and Legislator Perkins, to try to mitigate the issues as we move forward. We thought we would go with a single TME, leaving it under the umbrella of the St. Lawrence County Snowmobile Association. But the back and forth continued to the degree that we realized that to bring this to a fair and equitable end, that we needed to do what we're doing this evening, hopefully, and that's to designate 2 TMEs. So again, this was something that in my 12 years of being liaison to the Trails Board, never really had any experience with this, because this was a document that the chairman of the board would sign annually. And then the money would pass through the Soil and Water District into the hands of the St. Lawrence County Snowmobile Association. And then services were to be rendered evenly across the board to all of the clubs. So this is an annual event to sign this document. We find no alternative. We did not ask to be involved with this. We were brought into this because of the animosity between several of the clubs. So after a long period of back and forth, to go with 2 TMEs, being one to the St. Lawrence County Snowmobile Association and then one to an alliance between those 2 other clubs, seemed to be the only way to come out of this situation. So I ask for your support for this resolution. Thank you.
Any discussions or questions concerning Tony's? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Forsyth.
So Tony, with the long-term plan of this, we will act as the pass-through funding. Will it distribution of funds be placed via membership? The larger group gets the more share. What is the plan for that, I guess?
Well, moving this year, this particular grant year that we're in is already, surpassed. We have to put in for the grant by the 14th of June. So what this would do is, next year that the clubs would be on their own to perform all the tasks within, and then next year through the grant process, they would be funded accordingly per mileage.
Okay. All right. Good enough.
Any other questions? Don? Yes, Mr. Denise.
Not a question, Mr. Chairman, but I would like to be added as a co-sponsor.
And so would I. It's like, yeah, just goes on. So noted, Mr. Casey. Okay, no more discussion? All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. And Tony, I gotta congratulate you for a job well done. This has been a tough year for us on this particular subject matter. It's taken an awful lot of our time. With Tony and Rick Perkins, Legislator Lightfoot, Legislator Denisha, and myself. There's an awful lot of time that's gone in it. I hope I missed out. Mr. Akers has been involved as well. So it's been quite an effort to get to this point. So you did a good job. Go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your kind words, but really, Attorney Button has done what he always does, and he's taken a hold of this and brought some light and some information to us that he has a special way of making us all understand. So we certainly appreciate his help in this.
Yeah, how I could have forgotten to mention Steve's name was beyond me, but yeah, he is a big part of this picture. I mean, I don't know what we do without him. So. Okay. That's been carried. County Administrator's report.
Okay, well, we shortened it up with a couple conversations during resolution, so that should make it a little bit easier. Brief COVID update for you this evening. Last Wednesday marked the 6-week mark of having all of our office staff back 100%. We have had 3 instances of COVID cases reported and have severely mitigated the number of folks who had to be quarantined because of their vaccination status. So that's been very helpful to us. And also they've recovered well, not had serious situations, and we're happy to have them back. Currently, St. Lawrence County as a percentage with vaccinations is at 57.6. You've heard in both presentations this evening that the state's going for that 70% mark. Right now, they stand at 68.6 reported today. So as was also reported, the thresholds will change in the list that Jolene provided to you. And St. Lawrence County will review those changes, but we still remain 22% away from that 70, if that's the magic number that we determine allows for some of those restrictions to be relaxed. Dr. Williams briefly mentioned at the Maxey site at SUNY Potsdam, they've transitioned over to a FEMA trailer adjacent to Maxey Hall. But I think helpful to note that the state recognizes the important location at SUNY Potsdam and is continuing to make sure vaccines are provided there. They will continue to provide Johnson & Johnson. We'll also review the daily survey of staff that we conduct to make sure the questions we're asking remain relevant as some of these thresholds begin to change. Our questions in those surveys should be reflective of those changes, but also to determine about going forward, if when vaccinated, those become unnecessary. So we'll keep you posted on those. We continue to have those completed by employees on a daily basis. Certainly so happy to return things a little bit more toward normal, hosting the Dairy Princesses. We didn't have the opportunity to do that last year. Held it outside as to continue, I think, to be mindful of social distancing, but it was certainly wonderful to have them back among us. Also, as mentioned a little bit before, I did attend for the first time post-COVID, a gathering in Madison County. We were able to see a few presentations. There were probably about 25 county administrator managers in the room and another 6 or 7 on Zoom. So I'll share some of the information. NISAC facilitates that conversation, but it was very helpful, both to understand where counties aren't, who also have received half of their funding, but also the variety of interpretations of the use of these funds. So we want to make sure as we move forward in St. Lawrence County that as clear as possible, we understand what the limitations are. I've asked Chair Sheridan to appoint a committee that would certainly be inclusive of staff to advise, but also ask department heads to begin the process of putting together the but for we don't have the funds, what would be a good use of, and where are our greatest needs. So we are taking a look at those, and certainly before any of those appropriations come forward, we'll have a good plan to share with you. Vacancy committee will meet tomorrow. Agendas went out to the legislators attending. There are 6 departments with 9 vacancies that will be reviewed tomorrow at 3. And overall, I'd like to provide you monthly with an update on the total number of vacancies, and that for this month is 54, or 6.6% of our workforce. We talked about the ERAP. Important to note, as Legislator Haggard mentioned, 12 months of past due rent, 3 months of future rent, and up to 12 months of overdue utility bills. And just since we were having the dialogue, I got an update from our commissioner who indicated as of today, there are 58 applications for rent arrears, 55 for the prospective rent, as well as 13 utility arrears applications that have been submitted. So we do, and she agrees, the importance of getting the word out and getting folks comfortable to get those applications in will be paramount to the success for landlords to recover. Also wanted just to mention, I've been working with Legislator Burke to have some renewable energy conversations and schedule some time for legislators who are interested to hear from NYPA on some of their programs and see if they might be a fit. So we're looking in the next couple of weeks to schedule time to get together by Zoom with some of their folks in the programs to become educated and understand what might be available for St. Lawrence County. Also, Consolidation Committee will gather this Friday and return an update by way of email following that meeting. And we'll provide you with the pre, during, and post-COVID unemployment numbers. I do have one other transfer of funds to report out to you pursuant to local law C of the year 2011. $2,650 was requested from Highway today for a piece of equipment. Their data collector for their survey instrument failed. This was not an anticipated expense replacement that was authorized. Other than that, unless there's questions.
Any questions?
Can we thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we please put on our website information regarding who to contact to complete or help complete an application for this rent arrears and or the utilities?
We can, and I'm sure our friends in the media will help us get that out as well.
And yeah, because I've had landlords who called me and said, if you put the information out there, we'll make our stats go.
And also who they can contact in the way of Milk, who's helping us with this project.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Ruth? No more questions. Oh, yes, Mr. Burke's got a question for you.
Ruth, when it comes to the stimulus funding, could we possibly set the guidelines out to the public and ask for their suggestions as well?
I don't see why not.
Once the guidelines are finalized, I mean, I think, I certainly agree with asking our departments and, but I think it would be good to reach out to the public in general and say, here are the guidelines, and do you have some suggestions that would best meet the needs of our county?
We can do that.
I don't have any problem.
Yeah, but there's a couple other counties I can inquire with, John, who have done a similar thing.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Okay, thank you very much, Ruth.
Yeah.
On to old business. Any old business? Any new business? Yes, Tony Arkwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said in my previous presentation, we have 750 miles of snowmobile trails in St. Lawrence County with 553 miles funded to the snowmobile trail grant program. We have 126 miles of multi-use trails per Mr. Reagan's question. We, to date, since the local law came into effect, we've sold 475 trail passes at a revenue of about $25,000, just over $25,000. If the math doesn't seem to add with the trail pass being 65, it's because if you remember in the home rule, 65 is for the first vehicle, highway vehicle in each home. But if you have additional vehicles in your home, they're 20 beyond that. Some of the other money that's been tallied up there will go to the different clubs, as when you sign up for your trail pass, you can elect to join a club. So there'll be some money dispersed to the clubs, some money dispersed to the certainly to the rest be going to the trail system and the other expenditures along with it. So we're doing very well, I think, with the trail passes. Deb Christie is putting on some youth classes for ATV for the kids. There's 17 students signed up. If you know anybody that would be interested in ATV class, they're going to be held on June 26th and June 27th. And Deb Christie would be the person to get a hold of for that. Thank you.
Any more old business? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Yeah, Mr. Forsyth, go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the last month, I've been bringing up the water levels on the St. Lawrence River. I guess it's starting to get some attention. The other thing I ran into the other day, as my neighbor mentioned to me, was the quarantine with Canada and the boating on the St. Lawrence River. Apparently, Canadians can come into American waters. Americans that want to travel from, say, Morristown to Alex Bay, have to travel through the Lake of the Isles or whatever format, are in jeopardy of having their boat confiscated and taken away as a result of the restrictions imposed by Canada. I think we ought to look at, and I know we're a county, but it's an issue that's going to become real popular here real quick. And I'd never heard that. I've never heard anything about that till it was presented to me the other night. And I would hope that is not accurate and not the truth, but I got a feeling it is. So I think we have to really look at that, because there's a lot of people that like to enjoy their boating, go to the bay, and if they can't get there legally or have to be in jeopardy of losing their boat, I think it's going to become another issue. Most people that I know along this river in this section right here aren't going to be able to use their boats. In about 2 more weeks, it's going to be shut down because there's not enough water to get your boat out. But the people that are going to trailer and want to utilize it, I think it's going to become an issue. And I'd like to hear an answer, and I really don't know where to go for it. So just another point that's going to come up. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Mr. Akers.
Mrs. Doyle has questions.
Ms. Doyle.
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
Legislator Forsyth, we have an individual from the Border Patrol who joins our Monday calls every week for the coronavirus work group. I'd be happy to bring that question, while not directly related, indirectly with the closure is related to him, and find out if he could get us any answers on that.
Ruth, I would appreciate that 100%. Thank you. I'd love to hear it.
Okay.
So certainly you could reach out to Lisa Stephanik's office. I'm sure that her staff would be informed of what's taking place.
Mr. Smithers.
The website you provided to us, Kevin, I think is helpful. It's a complex issue. I'm just astounded at the outflow from the Ottawa River. It's like a third of what average is. And that's a serious concern. I think it's certainly a part of the picture, because Montreal Harbor, as you mentioned before, is so engaging that must be a concern of the regulators. I don't understand why Ottawa River is so low. Does anybody have any?
It's lack of snow and lack of precipitation. So like you said, Mr. Smithers, it's a third of what it was. After the water leaves the locks and the dam there on the St. Lawrence River, it's free flowing to the ocean. So the only way to supply Montreal with adequate river levels has to come through Messina. And because the lack of it is, most of the flooding that has occurred in the past is because the flow of the Ottawa River was beyond that 2,900 cubic feet or cubic meters per second. It was very excessive, and that was flooding Montreal. So they slowed down the flow, which backed up, and it flooded all the river properties along our way and along Lake Ontario. So it is a very complex issue, but I believe, I don't know scientifically if that is the reason, but it seems to me if the Ottawa River, which brings a lot of water into the harbor, if it's a third of its flow, the water's gotta come someplace else, otherwise these ships are gonna be on the bottom in Montreal. It's only 19 to 20 feet of water there in Montreal. So, pretty interesting, it comes out every Thursday.
I find that very interesting.
Yes.
Thank you for providing that.
You're welcome. I saw a report today in the newspaper that there was a map of the lands above the Great Lakes area that were considered drought areas. That's another reason maybe that the Great Lakes are as low as they are as well. So, it's hard to tell what the real issue is. Any other discussion on that subject, on our old business? None? Let's go to committee. Anybody got any committee reports here to report on? Yeah, Ms. Kern's got a committee report. Go ahead.
The EMS, Emergency Services Committee met, they discussed the fact that Putman County just passed a resolution that changes what the dispatcher education guidelines are, increasing what courses have to be taken for someone to be a dispatcher. Matt Denner is gonna get us the state information because it's something that seems to be pushing for at a state level. It's recommended now, but I feel it will be a change we have to look at in the next year, 18 months for our dispatcher.
Mr. Smithers?
Fair committee met and had a lot of information. There's a lot going on right now, planning for upcoming fair, August 2nd to 8th, in addition to the other events they have scheduled. I share some of this information with you, trying to follow the guidelines from the state. Signage is extremely important. We plan on using signage in addition to the honor system as far as following guidelines. The question if county has any sanitation stations or sanitizer that would be willing to provide, those are important also. We're trying to limit grandstand attendance to 1,200 tickets per event. We're planning on Lone Star concert on Tuesday night. Those are a little more expensive tickets. Parade on Wednesday, town show on Thursday. This is something different that I found interesting. Friday is a rodeo, 2 shows. Tickets are $15 a piece for that. And I have bull riding, truck pull Saturday afternoon, tractor pull at night. Sunday, 2 demolition derbies instead of the usual one because they want to have a limited number of 50 vehicles each one. So they're not all there at the same time. One starting at noon and the other one starting at 4 p.m.
Thank you.
We are still planning on having the legislators meet there on the 2nd for our meeting. If there's no objection to that.
Thank you. Any questions on Mr. Smithers' report? Was Eleanor there?
I think we had a volunteer legislator to get on that bull riding. And I think the youngest one would be Suzanne Fiacco. She's a hockey player. I'm thinking that we ought to enter Suzanne Fiacco in the amateur section for bull riding.
Doesn't look
Ask
all
for a
that
vote,
good.
sir, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Seconded.
All right. Is that in the committee? Is that in the committee reports?
Yes.
All right, how about do we have a need to go into executive session, Ruth?
We do for litigation and personnel with regard to the medical, financial, credit, or employment history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation, and appointment.
Motion to go into executive session by Ms. Kern, seconded by Mr. Dan Fay, and Mr. Arkwood. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, go into executive session.
Darling of Oswegatchie. Under services for Mr. Lightfoot, the Office for the Aging Advisory Council, Barbara B. McBurney of Parrishville, and Marjorie McCullough of Hampton.
Okay, all in favor of those appointments?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Chair has no appointments. And without further business, we adjourn.